It is Wednesday, June 4th, 2026, and I need to talk to you about something that just changed in the forecast. And honestly, it changed in a direction that nobody was really hoping for. We have been watching this pattern develop for the last several days, and I want to be straight with you right now. This is not a drill. What we are looking at over the next 5 to 7 days has the potential to become one of the more significant severe weather setups that we have seen across the central United States in quite some time. Multiple rounds of storms, an atmosphere that is going to be primed and ready to go, and a jet stream pattern that is shifting in a way that is genuinely alarming when you look at it on the models. So let's get right into it, because there is a lot to cover, and I want to make sure that everybody who needs to hear this information actually hears it. Let me start with what changed, because that is really the heart of this whole video. Up until about 24 to 36 hours ago, the models were showing a fairly progressive storm system, one that would move through quickly, maybe produce some scattered severe weather, and then get out of here. That is not what the models are showing anymore. What changed is that the low pressure system that has been sitting out over the Pacific has slowed down considerably. And when a system slows down, it deepens. It gets stronger. It has more time to pull the warm, moist air northward out of the Gulf of Mexico. And it has more time to interact with the cold, dry air that is sitting up across the northern plains right now. That combination, that interaction between the warm and the cold, that is exactly what produces the kind of severe weather that we talk about for a long time afterward. So the fact that this system is slowing down is not good news for a lot of people across the central and southern plains and the Midwest. Now, I want to walk you through this day by day, because I think that is the clearest way to explain what is coming and who needs to be paying the most attention. And I do want to say up front that some of these details are still going to change. We are still a few days out from the most significant part of this event, and the models are not in perfect agreement yet. But the trend over the last several model runs has been consistent, and that trend is toward a more significant and more organized severe weather threat. That is why I wanted to get this video out today rather than waiting. Starting with Thursday, this is actually the quieter day of the setup, but it is important because it is when the atmosphere starts to get loaded up. We are going to see moisture streaming northward out of the Gulf, and temperatures across the southern plains are going to be running well above average. Dew points are going to be climbing into the upper 60s and even low 70s across Oklahoma and Kansas and back into Missouri. That is a tremendous amount of atmospheric moisture for early June, and it is going to be sitting right underneath a very strong cap. Now the cap is what keeps storms from firing too early in the day, and on Thursday that cap is going to hold. But the fact that all of that moisture and instability is building underneath that cap on Thursday means that when the cap finally breaks on Friday, we could be looking at an explosive severe weather situation. Think of it like a pressure cooker. Thursday is when the pressure builds. Friday is when the lid comes off. And Friday is honestly the day that concerns me the most right now. This is when that low pressure system is going to be deepening and pushing into the central plains, and the jet stream is going to be screaming across the area with winds at the 500 millibar level, potentially exceeding 80 to 90 knots. That is an incredible amount of wind shear, and the atmosphere and wind shear is what organizes storms into supercells. Supercells are the storms that produce the biggest hail, the most damaging winds, and yes, the strongest tornadoes. Right now, on Friday, I'm watching a corridor from roughly central Kansas down through central Oklahoma and into north Texas, where the ingredients for a significant severe weather outbreak are coming together. I want to be careful here, because we have seen these setups before where everything looks perfect on paper and then something shifts and the event underperforms. But I also have to be honest with you about what the data is showing, and right now the data is showing a setup that has outbreak potential. I'm not going to throw that word around lightly, but I think people in this corridor need to start taking Friday seriously right now. The tornado threat on Friday is real. When you have the kind of wind shear that is being advertised right now, combined with that level of instability and moisture, and you have discrete supercell storms forming in the afternoon hours, tornadoes are not just possible. They are likely somewhere in that corridor. The question right now is exactly where the greatest concentration of storms is going to set up, and that is something we are going to have a much better handle on by tomorrow. What I can tell you right now is that if you live anywhere from Wichita southward through Oklahoma City and down toward Amarillo and Lubbock, Friday afternoon and evening needs to be on your radar. Make sure you know how you're going to get weather warnings. Make sure you have a plan. Make sure you know where you are going if a tornado warning is issued for your area. I cannot stress that enough, because if this setup verifies the way the models are currently suggesting, we could be talking about significant tornadoes on Friday. Large hail is also going to be a major threat on Friday. We could easily be looking at baseball-sized hail or larger with the strongest supercells. I know people sometimes dismiss hail because it does not carry the same emotional weight as a tornado, but baseball Sized hail falling at 100 miles per hour will destroy your vehicle, it will punch through your roof, and it can seriously injure or kill a person caught outside. Please take the hail threat just as seriously as you take the tornado threat on Friday. Get your vehicles under cover if you can. If you have a garage, use it. If you do not, try to find a parking structure or something solid to park under, because the hail on Friday could be catastrophic for anything left outside. Now, Saturday is where things get really interesting and also really uncertain. The low pressure system is going to be pushing into the Missouri and Arkansas area by Saturday morning. The question is going to be how organized the storm mode is at that point. On Friday, the storms are going to be discrete supercells, individual storms with clear and defined structure, and that is actually the more dangerous mode for tornadoes. On Saturday, there's a chance that those storm Hess could consolidate into a squall line overnight, Friday into Saturday. And if that happens, the tornado threat drops somewhat, but the damaging wind threat goes through the roof. A well-organized squall line pushing through the Mississippi Valley on Saturday could produce widespread 70 to 80 mile per hour wind gusts across a very large area. We are talking about a path from maybe Memphis, northward through St. Louis and into the Chicago suburbs potentially. That is tens of millions of people in the path of damaging winds, power outages, downed trees, structural damage. All of that is on the table if a strong squall line pushes through on Saturday. But here is the other scenario, and this is the one that keeps me up at night, honestly. If the low pressure system slows down even more than the models are currently showing, the storms on Friday night may not consolidate into a line. They may stay discrete a little bit longer. And if that happens, the tornado threat extends into Saturday morning across parts of Arkansas, Tennessee, and Mississippi. I have seen setups like this before where the tornadoes are happening in the overnight and early morning hours when people are asleep, and that is when these events become truly deadly. So I want everybody in the Mid-South to understand that Saturday morning is not going to be a time to let your guard down. Keep your phone charged, keep your weather alerts turned on, sleep with your shoes nearby, and know where you're going if that warning goes off at 2 or 3 in the morning. Then we get to Sunday and the secondary setup that is developing behind this first system. A secondary area of low pressure is going to develop along the frontal boundary as it pushes into the Tennessee Valley and the Ohio Valley on Sunday. This secondary low is actually something that the models picked up on in just the last couple of runs, and it is part of what has made this forecast take the bad turn that I mentioned at the top of the video. This secondary low could reinvigorate the severe weather threat on Sunday across parts of the Ohio Valley, Indiana, Ohio, and even back into Kentucky and Tennessee. Right now, I would put Sunday in the category of a scattered severe weather threat rather than an organized outbreak, but that could change. And given how active Friday and Saturday look, if the atmosphere is still as juiced up as the models suggest, Sunday could surprise people. Behind all of this severe weather, there's another story that I want to touch on, and that is the rainfall. This entire system is going to be a prolific rain producer. We are not just talking about severe weather, we are talking about rainfall totals that could cause serious flooding problems across a large area. The setup is particularly concerning for flash flooding in the Ozarks and across the Arkansas River Valley, where the terrain can funnel water very quickly. Some areas in this region could see 4 to 6 inches of rainfall over a 24 to 36 hour period. And some of the more aggressive model solutions are showing isolated totals approaching 8 inches. That is catastrophic flooding potential, and it deserves just as much attention as the severe weather. If you live in a low-lying area near a creek or river or in a valley, please pay very close attention to any flash flood watches or warnings that get issued starting Friday and running through Sunday. Do not drive through flooded roadways. Turn around, don't drown. It sounds simple, but that is where we lose so many people in these events. The bottom line here is that the forecast has taken a turn, and it has turned in the wrong direction for a lot of people across the central United States. Friday looks like the most significant day with a legitimate outbreak scenario on the table, from central Kansas through Oklahoma and into North Texas. Saturday brings a major wind threat to the Mississippi Valley, and potentially a continued tornado threat if the storm mode stays discrete overnight. Sunday features a secondary severe weather threat in the Ohio Valley. And on top of all of that, widespread flooding is going to be a serious concern from Friday through the weekend. I want you to share this video with your friends and family in these areas because the next 72 hours of forecast updates are going to be critical. Check back tomorrow because I'm going to have a much more detailed breakdown of the Friday setup, specifically once the morning model runs come in. Stay safe out there, make sure your plans are in place, and we will get through this together. I will see you in the next one.